Tree Grows in Brooklyn, Chapter 10. Francie wasn't much of a baby. She was skinny and had a blue look and didn't thrive. Katie nursed her doggedly, although the neighbor woman told her that her milk was bad for the child. Francie was put on a bottle soon enough because Katie's milk stopped suddenly when the child was 3 months old. Katie worried. She consulted her mother. Mary Romilly looked at her, sighed, but said nothing. Katie went to the midwife for advice. The woman asked her a foolish question. "Where do you buy your fish of a Friday?" "Paddy's Market. Why?" "You wouldn't be after seeing an old woman in there buying a codfish head for her cat, would you now?" "Yes, I see her every week." "She did it. She dried up your milk on you." "Oh, no. She put the eye on you." "But why?" "Jealous she is because you're too happy with that pretty Irish lad of yours." "Jealous? An old woman like that?" "A witch she is. I knew her back in the old country. Sure, and didn't she come over on the same boat as myself? When she was young, she was in love with a wild County Kerry boy. And didn't he go and get her that way, and he wouldn't go to the priest with her when her old father went after him. He slipped away on a boat for America in the dead of night. Her baby died when it was born. Then she sold her soul to the devil, and he did give her the power of drying up the milk of cows and nanny goats and girls of married young boys. I remember she looked at me in a funny way. 'Twas then that she put the eye on you." "How can I get my milk back?" "I'll tell you what you must do. Wait until the moon is full, then make a little image out of a lock of your curling hair, a cutting from your fingernail, and a bit of rag sprinkled with holy water. Christen it Neely Grogan, and that's the witch's name, and stick 3 rusty pins in it. That will spoil her power over you, and sure your milk will be flowing again like the River Shannon. That will be a quarter." Katie paid her. When the moon was full, she made a little doll and stabbed it and stabbed it. She remained dry. Francie sickened on the bottle. In desperation, Katie called Sissy in for advice. Sissy listened to the witch's story. "A witch my foot," she said scornfully. "It was Johnny who did it, and it wasn't with an eye." In that way, Katie knew that she was pregnant again. She told Johnny, and he started to worry. He had been fairly happy back in the singing waiter business, and he worked pretty often, was steady, didn't drink too much, and brought home most of his money. The news that a second child was on the way made him feel trapped. He was only 20 and Katie was 18. He felt that they were both so young and so defeated already. He went out and got drunk after he heard the news. The midwife came around later to see how the charm had worked. Katie told her that the charm had failed since she was pregnant and the old witch was not to blame. The midwife lifted her skirt and dug down into a capacious pocket made in her petticoat. She brought up a bottle of evil-looking dark brown stuff. "Sure, and there's nothing to worry about," she said. "A good dose of this night and morning for 3 days, and you'll come around again." Katie shook her head negatively. "You're not afraid of what the priest would be saying to you if you did it?" "No, it's just that I couldn't kill anything." "It wouldn't be killing. It don't count till you've felt life. You're not after feeling it move, are you?" "No." "There!" She slammed her fist on the table triumphantly. "I'll only be charging you $1 for the bottle." "Thank you, I don't want it." "Don't be foolish. You're just a bit of a girl and have trouble enough with the one you do be having already, and your man is pretty but not the steadiest boy in the world." "The way my man is my own business, and my baby is no trouble. I'm only after trying to help you out. Thank you, and goodbye." The midwife returned the bottle to her petticoat pocket and got up to go. "When your time comes, you know where I live." At the door, she gave a last bit of optimistic advice. "If you keep running up and down the stairs, maybe you'll have a miscarriage." That fall, in the false warmth of a Brooklyn Indian summer, Katie sat on the stoop and held her sickly baby against the bigness which was another child soon to be born. Pitying neighbors stopped to commiserate over Francie. "You'll never raise that one," they told her. "Her color ain't good. If the good Lord takes her, it'll be for the best. What good is a sickly baby in a poor family? There is too many children on this earth already, and no room for the weak ones." Don't say that. Katy held her baby tightly. It's not better to die. Who wants to die? Everything struggles to live. Look at that tree growing up there out of that grating. It gets no sun and water only when it rains. It's growing out of sour earth, and it's strong because its hard struggle to live is making it strong. My children will be strong that way. Aw, somebody ought to cut that tree down, the homely thing. If there was only one tree like that in the world, you would think it was beautiful, said Katy. But because there are so many, you just can't see how beautiful it really is. Look at those children. She pointed to a swarm of dirty children playing in the gutter. You could take any one of them and wash him good and dress him up and sit him in a fine house, and you would think he was beautiful. You've got fine ideas, but a very sick baby, Katy, they told her. This baby will live, said Katy fiercely. I'll make it live. And Francie lived, choking and whimpering her way through that first year. Francie's brother was born a week after her first birthday. This time Katy was not working when the pains came. This time she bit her lip and did not scream out in her agony. Helpless in her pain, she was capable still of laying the foundation for bitterness and capability. When the strong, healthy boy, howling at the indignity of the birth process, was put to her breast, she felt a wild tenderness for him. The other baby, Francie, in the crib next to her bed, began to whimper. Katy had a flash of contempt for the weak child she had born a year ago. When she compared her to this new handsome son, she was quickly ashamed of her contempt. She knew it wasn't the little girl's fault. I must watch myself carefully, she thought. I'm going to love this boy more than the girl, but I mustn't ever let her know. It is wrong to love one child more than the other, but this is something I can't help. Sissy begged her to call the boy after Johnny, but Katy insisted the boy had a right to a name of his own. Sissy got very angry and told Katy a thing or two. Finally, Katy, more in anger than in truth, accused Sissy of being in love with Johnny. Sissy answered, maybe, and Katy shut up. She was a little afraid of that if they quarreled further, she would find out that it was so about Sissy loving Johnny. Katy called the boy Cornelius after a noble character she'd seen a handsome actor represent on stage. As the boy grew up, the name was changed into Brooklynese, and he was known as Neely. Without devious reasoning or complicated emotional process, the boy became Katy's whole world. Johnny took second place, and Francie went to the back of her mother's heart. Katy loved the boy because he was more completely hers than either Johnny or Francie. Neely looked exactly like Johnny. Katy would make him into the kind of man Johnny should have been. He would have everything that was good about Johnny. She would encourage that. She would stamp out all of the things that were bad about Johnny as they came up in the boy Neely. He would grow up, and she would be proud of him, and he would take care of her all of her days. He was the one that she had to see through. Francie and Johnny would get by somehow, but she would take no chances with the boy. She'd see to it that he more than got by. Gradually, as the children grew up, Katy lost all of her tenderness, although she gained in what people called character. She became capable, hard, and far-seeing. She loved Johnny dearly, but all the old wild worship faded away. She loved her little girl because she felt sorry for her. It was pity and obligation towards her that she felt rather than love. Johnny and Francie felt the growing change in Katy. As the boy grew stronger and handsomer, Johnny grew in weakness and went further and further downhill. Francie felt the way her mother thought about her. She grew in answering hardness against her mother, and this hardness, paradoxically enough, brought them a little closer together because it made them more alike. By the time Neely was a year old, Katy had stopped depending on Johnny. Johnny was drinking heavily. He worked when he was offered one-night jobs. He brought home his wages but kept his tips for liquor. Life was going too swiftly for Johnny. He had a wife and 2 babies before he was old enough to vote. His life was finished before it had a chance to begin. He was doomed, and no one knew it better than Johnny Nolan. Katy had the same hardships as Johnny, and she was 19, 2 years younger. It might be said that she too was doomed. Her life, too, was over before it began. But there the similarity ended. Johnny knew he was doomed and accepted it. Katie wouldn't accept it. She started a new life where her old one left off. She exchanged her tenderness for capability. She gave up her dreams and took over hard realities in their place. Katie had a fierce desire for survival which made her a fighter. Johnny had a hankering after immortality which made him a useless dreamer. And that was the great difference between these two who loved each other so well.